Anderson's English is currently running at the Library Theatre, and joining me now are two of its stars, Niamh Cussack and David Rintoul. Thank you very much for both of you for coming in.
Pleasure.
Lovely to be
now,
here.
first of all, what's it all about, Anderson's English? Tell us what the premise is.
It's about a visit that actually happened. Hans Christian Andersen visited Charles Dickens and his family in 1857 and in their house in Gad's Hill in Kent. And then the imagining is what he observed, the imagining by Sebastian Barry, the writer. And he observes a family that seem on the outside to be very, very happy, and it seems to be a very sort of paradise of a place. But actually underneath there's an undercurrent that's quite dark. But because Andersen doesn't speak terribly good English, and because the English are so understated, he doesn't quite discover what's happening until well, in retrospect, he looks back and thinks, that's what was going on, which is basically a marital breakup was going on.
Sounds like a very interesting concept. Now, it opened last night in Manchester, I know. You've been on tour, this run's been going for about 4 weeks, did you say, before this?
This is our fourth week, yeah.
And how are you feeling so far? Because I always think, you think, we see you on stage for, I don't know, maybe an hour, 90 minutes or so. It's actually very shattering, isn't it? When I've spoken to actors before, when you're doing a theatre run, it really takes an awful lot out of you, doesn't it?
It's quite demanding. It's a demanding play because all of the characters are at a fairly high level of tension during the play. But it's nice to be here, and it's nice to be in the Library Theatre for one of the last shows in the Library Theatre, which is going to move on. It's a very nice space. It's a good space for the play.
It's like a big room, actually. You feel so close to the audience, and it's really, really intimate. And we had a lovely opening night last night, and we had a Q&A afterwards, and people are so... They seem to really have engaged with the play. It was really lively, wasn't it, last night?
Yeah.
So the Manchester crowd, you found them to be quite welcoming, shall we say?
Yeah,
very enthusiastic.
Very bright, very receptive. It's a play on a serious theme, but with a lot of laughs in it as well. And so they picked up on the humour very well. Mm-hmm. It was a good night. It was a good night. And looking forward to the rest of the week. It's selling very well. It's not completely sold out yet, so hurry. But it's some performances, I think, are completely sold out. But there are some tickets left.
And it's on till Saturday as well, so plenty of time if people do want to get tickets. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the characters that you play, because, David, you play Charles Dickens, and I think you pretty much have to have lived on Mars not to know who Charles Dickens is.
Indeed.
Most of us have probably grown up loving his novels, but obviously as an actor you're exploring far deeper than that then. Was there any surprises there when you were exploring his character, and how was that process? Yeah,
a lot. I mean, there's a lot of biographical material about Dickens. We know a lot about him. He was a man who was... the appearance was that he was very much a family man. He had 10 children, 9 of whom survived, but by Katherine. He was, in 1857, at the absolute pinnacle of his fame. I mean, he was international superstar kind of chap, as was Hans Christian Andersen. So it was the meeting of two very, very famous men. He was very fired up as a writer. He could have been an actor. He actually was going to audition for Covent Garden and then got a cold and then decided to be a writer instead. But he did perform a lot. And in 1857, he was performing a charity performance of a play called The Frozen Deep, which he'd done with family members and friends. And they were asked to do it here in Manchester Free Trade Hall, which is a big house. And he employed some professional actors, in particular professional actresses, one of whom, who is the 18-year-old Ellen Ternan, he left his life for.
Oh, dear.
And, yes, well, it happens, you know.
And you were saying earlier, of course, that means that everybody in Manchester is to blame for the breakup of the marriage.
Absolutely,
of course. Yes. Niamh, you play Charles Dickens' wife, as we've mentioned there, we've touched upon that, yes. What sort of woman is she, then, and how was she to play?
Well, I mean... There's not as much known about Katherine because she was very much, in the shadows, really. So, in a way, she's more of an invention of Sebastian Barry's. I mean, she is a mother of 10 children. She's suffering, as she did actually suffer from postnatal depression, and that was the main excuse that Dickens used for ejecting her from the family house. I mean, he actually sent her to live in Camden Town alone. The children stayed with him, apart from Charlie, who was the eldest, who was in a position, who was independent enough to go and live with her. And the reason he used was not Ellen Ternan, but her madness. He described her as mad, which I'm certainly, I feel very strongly as guardian of her character,
of course.
She wasn't.
Yes.
But in those days, many women who suffered from depression, were tarred with that title and were sent to asylums. In fact, a number of people have said that it was quite sort of kind of Dickens to actually not send her into some sort of hospital.
Gosh, so there's lots of different themes going on there, isn't there? Just quickly, because we are out of time, but you've had some fantastic reviews. I'll just read one here. A dream meeting of fine writer, superlative cast and top-notch productions. So you're ticking all the boxes there. It's on till Saturday. As you said, there's not many tickets left. So best of luck with the rest of the run. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.